I'm Robert Barnes from Spider Machines, and in this series, what we're talking about is how the machine relates. So when you have your finger and you touch a button, how does that communicate back to a component? And what we're going to be showing you is the valves, the motor, the inverter, all these things. So this is called a potentiometer, and what this gives us the ability to do is to adjust the speed of the print head, so forward and back, or print and flood. So with this speed control, on the back of this is a potentiometer which varies the resistance. So the inverter, which we'll go over, has a small amount of voltage that travels to this device called a potentiometer, and as you change the resistance, it changes the voltage. So that device then interpolates the change in voltage to a speed change, changes the hertz, the rotation of the motor, which makes the motor either run faster or slower. And that's really what you're doing when you turn this, much like the radio in an old car. When you turn the knob, the sound would go up, you turn the knob the other way, the sound goes down. So that's how your potentiometers work. Now if you take a look at these yellow buttons here, these are on the yellow plane, the horizontal plane of the print head. And so you have squeegee and flood bar air clamps, which lock the basically operate the cylinders, which lock the squeegee and flood bar in place. Now when you press this button, you're sending voltage, in this case 24 volts DC, you're sending a control voltage of 24 volts to the valve in the back of the head. The valve will shift, the spool will shift inside the valve, and then air will transfer via a hose into the chopper cylinders. And those chopper cylinders then oscillate up and down. So when you press these yellow buttons, they fire the squeegee and flood bar clamps. In this case, they fire the front and rear screen holders, operating the same way. So that's what these yellow buttons do, and each time you press one, it sends that voltage to the valve, oscillates the valve, which oscillates the cylinder. So as we look here, we have a similar situation with the flood bar and the squeegee cylinders, raising and lowering of the squeegee and flood bar. When you press these buttons, 24 volts is sent to a valve. The valve shifts the spool inside, transfers the air, which moves the squeegee or flood bar up or down. And you'll notice on the Printex it has independent control over the squeegee and the flood bar movement. This is very important for a press operator because it gives you the control to move each movement by the touch of your finger. And a lot of the older technology machines just don't have this ability. So Printex is a company that gives you the kind of innovation you need with equipment, but it's at a much lower price than the name brands, so to speak. Although Printex now is becoming a pretty well-known name brand. Here, these buttons are your counterclockwise and clockwise. When you press these buttons, they send a signal back to the main computer, which tells the machine, hey, I would like to index either counterclockwise or clockwise. Here we have a half and full index, same situation. The closure of that button tells the machine that I would like to only move a half an index clockwise or counterclockwise. Here you have a front and rear, which is a simple push button, front or rear. You press the button and the head will move according to which way you're asking the machine to operate. Test button obviously runs through a cycle if you want to print and test your print. Table up, table down. Now the Printex Prism II that I'm working with here is a servo lift. So it uses a servo motor with a ball screw and a giant spring, so the weight is supported by the spring. So when we push table up and down, the table whoop, whoop, you can hear one running in the background. That's a 16 color 18 station behind me. So table up, down, print test. Index lock, you have a ball screw driven indexer, and that lock, when you press it, lock, dislock, it engages or disengages the capture fork, and that's what this button does. Function and memory, these are two really interesting features on the Printex machine. When you're in the memory, these two buttons, the front and rear, actually control the off contact. They digitally control the position when the table raises in relation to the screen, which is a very nice feature. The function button What it does is, typically during setup, on most machines, you're going to move the table, raise the table up, place your film or use some kind of film positioning or a tri-lock or a Newman pin system, some type of pre-registration system. But what the function key does on the Printex is when it's illuminated and you ask the machine to index, what it does is it indexes and automatically raises the table and leaves it in the up position for you to align the screen. Very nice feature. So this is how all these buttons work. We're going to show you the opposite side of this panel so you can see the component level with the connections and how it all ties together back with the machine. So this is the back side of the Printex panel. And the thing about modern technology which makes it nice is it's so convenient to do a repair. If you want to replace this entire circuit board, it's really just a matter of unplugging some ribbon connectors, a couple other wires. Doesn't even require a screwdriver. I mean, you can literally just unplug everything. So what we want to do in this is kind of show you a little bit around the card so you have an understanding. These are potentiometers. They're soldered directly to the board. So those we talked about control the speed of the printhead. So these are the potentiometers. These are what we call dip switches. These dip switches identify to the machine which printhead is which, and that's what these dip switches do. This cable here goes over and connects directly over to our valves, our inverter, and so forth. And this cable is for our flash. One of the nice things about the Printex equipment is that when you plug in over here, when you plug in the flash, it automatically communicates with the machine to know, hey, I'm a flash cure. And that's what this ribbon does. This is your communication, which communicates to the machine. So signals are sent back and forth between the machine through this cable here. And this guy over here is actually your sensors, your front and rear sensor. So that's how simple the layout of this is. Down here you'll notice the safety. This is the safety system. So if you've ever had a problem with the safety system on a machine you've owned, you can easily diagnose it right here. So as we go through this, you'll notice that these have outputs. Output 8, 7, output 6, 5, 4, 3, all the way down to 1. And then each output, an output makes a movement. So every time you press a squeegee lock or a flood bar lock or a front screen, rear screen, those fire specific outputs. And from those LEDs, you can tell which outputs are working or not working. So these are some important things to know about equipment, that newer technology makes it so much easier to diagnose and work on and make a repair. So with each one of these inputs and outputs showing, you can do what? You can quickly diagnose. And the nice thing about head-based control systems is that if you have a problem with head 4, as an example, it's all based right here in the head. You're not dealing with tons of wire running down the machine all the way down to a main PLC and trying to diagnose, well, which wire is it? All of the wires related to this head are right here, so it makes it so much easier to work on. Lighting is typically good in the printhead area, so you can see when you're crawling under a machine or climbing on top of one. Usually lighting is not best, and it's difficult to be able to tell what you're looking at. So hopefully this kind of brings you up to speed a little bit about these type of controls and why the industry is shifting away from the older PLC technology and moving to PCB boards. I'm Robert Barnes from Spider Machines, and I appreciate you watching my videos.